Armando, when it comes to moving something from the small screen, which is a rip-roaring success there, I mean, history tells us that moving onto the big screen is an extremely dangerous process. And yet this morning, 4 stars in virtually every paper, 5 in a couple. So it's worked, but why?
Why? Oh, right. If I had the answer to that, I would be a movie mogul and a TV mogul and an internet mogul. I don't know, we just always approach any project we do with the attitude, let's make it as fun as it can be. Let's bear in mind the medium that it's going out in, let's bear in mind the audience it's for, but fundamentally, it's got to make us laugh. And
did you have to do anything to Alan Partridge to move him onto the big screen?
No, I think, Steve especially grew his own paunch to fill Alan's shirts. And we gave him a look that is slightly 2005 Top Gear presenter, because we thought that was Alan's favourite style. But fundamentally, I think if you overanalyze, I think the mistake that's happened in the past when people have transferred television shows to film is that they've thought it's a film, therefore it's got to be big, it's got to be brash, it's got to have loud noises and chases, and everything that you've enjoyed in the TV show has got to be 100 times bigger than the film. I think that's the mistake. A lot of the best films can be really intimate pieces. I mean, if my favorite film director is Woody Allen, and he wouldn't be described as a big brash film director. A lot of his pieces are just set in interiors and exteriors of New York. One of the best films of last year, L'Amour, was about an 80-something Parisian couple, one of whom was dying, and it was all set more or less entirely within their Parisian apartment. I still felt like a film.
But Partridge is a simply dreadful character. I'm a horrible...
Well, thank you very much.
No, but I mean, but we like him. I mean, and we enjoy him.
Well, there's also that, and we've also been very careful over the years to give him that element of humanity. You kind of feel for him, and he is fairly thick-skinned, so therefore he doesn't see himself the way other people see him.
But in the truest way, it is tragic comedy.
Well, I think there's a bit of hope and a bit of... There's a
lot of sadness. He's a sad git.
Yeah, but sadness is funny, isn't it?
I don't know. You seem to find it funny.
You know, I think this show would be a lot better. This show would be a lot better if there was a laughter track under it from beginning to end. I think you'd get more viewers, and actually people would take in more as well, actually.
Well, that is the problem with you and interviewing you too, because anybody who comes across you must think, maybe I'll find myself staggering into one of his awful tragic comedic, extremely funny shows.
Well, no, I think it's... I mean, I always laugh about the things that I enjoy or that I'm interested in. So I am, for example, fundamentally interested in politics, which is why I've ended up doing political comedy. I love television, which is why we have a character who is yearning to be back on television. But it's not because I dismiss these areas or regard them as fickle. I just think, especially in your early career, when you start off as a comedian or as a comedy writer, you're always drawn to the things that you're most fascinated by.
Well, I mean, talking of politics, has coalition robbed you of the kind of rich seams that Labour at war, Labour in banking crises, and the rest provided you?
I think there's 101 glorious scenes going on in Number 10 every day, because we have these two factions, one of which is 3 times the size of the other, trying to get through every day, trying to keep everyone on board, while at the same time trying to put out completely opposite public positions in order to appease their own supporters.
But they're all far too well-bred to have Malcolm Tucker swearing at them the way he was swearing.
So they ship in an Australian instead, in the form of Linton Crosby.
But what about Linton Crosby? I mean, you had a lot of fun at the expense of Alistair Campbell. Is Linton Crosby queuing up?
Well, the thing about Malcolm Tucker is Alistair Campbell claims that he is based on him, but he's not. He's based on an amalgam of him and all the other nameless, faceless task force implementers and the people who practice the dark arts in Number 10 and who try and convey this mysterious power of persuasion using the media and strategy and grids and timetables and schedules, as if somehow they are able to get round events.
But there are events which outstrip even you. One thinks of Plebgate. Could you have written Plebgate?
No, because if we had, we'd have been criticised for coming up with a very, very simplistic farce. I mean, who'd have thought that someone just riding a bike out of Downing Street would get half the police arrested? It's the biggest scandal since the previous one. Yeah, that's the thing about politics, is that what you think is going to be the big topic that will galvanise everyone goes by unnoticed, and the simplest thing can suddenly take off. So, and that the politician's mistake, or the political leader's mistake, is to think that that's not going to happen, and that you can employ people who will tell you what the big topics are going to be and how you can control them.
But what's amazing about you is that you have managed to cross the Atlantic with satire and make the Americans laugh. That's not been a British trait. There have been some very, very funny political satires here which haven't worked in the States, and yours have, but you did adjust them a bit. And of course you had the Sarah Palin Veep setup.
Well, except the Veep isn't Sarah Palin. See, that's the mistake you're making again of saying that we're not doing impressions of actual people. So Malcolm Tucker isn't Alistair Campbell.
No, I don't.
The Vice President Selina Meyer
I don't think
isn't
it's literal,
Sarah Palin.
but you were spoon-fed by the existence of a woman like Sarah Palin,
and also Hillary Clinton,
and by Alistair Campbell this side. I mean, he may not, Malcolm Tucker may not be actually him, but he is bits of him.
Oh yeah, I'm not denying that the likes of Alistair Campbell have given us inspiration. But I think going to the American side of things, I mean, all that we've done, and going back right to what I said at the start, is try and think of the funniest thing possible. There's no mysterious science to it. I've immersed myself
the problem in America is nobody knows who anybody is. They only know about 4 or 5 of the top people, and because everything's local, everything's, your congressman, your senator.
And part of the problem with American politics at the moment is it's dictated by local interests. So, the House of Representatives cannot pass anything that the Senate agrees to, because the House of Representatives is made up of people who represent small districts within a state who are only interested in their issues. So the idea of them coming together to come up with a grand scheme on the national economy, or an energy policy, or an immigration reform, or any one foreign policies, is minimal, which is why you have this deadlock in America where nothing can happen.
I did enjoy the OBE exchange with Alistair Campbell on Twitter. He told you that they were 3 letters that were going to bring you an awful lot of trouble, and you tweeted back, and I could see from the timing, instantly, WMD.
Yeah, but that's just a reactive. Normally, I don't engage in those sort of things, but
in a funny sort of way, you've engaged in an OBE. That means you become part of the establishment.
Well,
you've got the blessing
of
somebody who dishes these things out.
Who is?
We don't know. Do we? Who fixes these things? Who gives you an OBE? I mean, it's ultimately the Queen or the Prime Minister or whoever, but somebody somewhere said, Armando, we need to give him an OBE.
Well, I've said before, I have no problem with accepting awards or getting honorary degrees for which I haven't studied. I'm very proud of the work that I've done, whether it's political stuff or Alan Partridge or anything else.
Would you take a peerage?
Would I take a peerage? Of course not. That would be terrible.
Well, you wouldn't be the first one, would you?
I'd be a terrible lord.
You wouldn't be the first one.
I'd be awful.
What about your Italianness? Does that inform some of your humour? Is that one of the roots?
I don't know. I grew up as an Italian in Scotland, so you are instantly in several cultural groupings, and at the same time outside them. So, if you go to a ceilidh, you think this is a bit odd. The Italian in you is saying this is strange. And yet if you go to like a big Italian wedding, the Scot in you is saying this is a bit strange. And then also you grow up with the BBC and ITV broadcasting programs from London. So as a Scot, you feel, why are they making jokes about Ken Livingstone and the GLC? Which is, you feel slightly detached from that as well. And I don't know whether that sense of detachment is something that actually contributes to your feeling slightly at a distance from something so you can observe it from outside.
Are we going to see Partridge 2 in the cinemas?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, we really haven't, we literally haven't discussed it. We just wanted to get the film done and see how it would do.
But that is the way of the cinema world, isn't it? If you have a big hit with this.
Well, I think the very next thing that we're doing with Alan Partridge is he's going back on the internet. He's going to do some more Mid-Morning Matters, which is these little YouTube pieces. That's the next thing. I mean, that's the thing we quite like about him, in that he actually exists outside of one particular format, and that we can apply him to different media outlets.
And what about any other arena in the sort of socio-economic life of the country? Are you going to go to the royal family? What about a baby? I mean, how do you deal with the baby? You've missed the baby, you've been on holiday, but the baby has ruled the world for the last 5 days. George.
Don't tell me what sex it is, because I've taped it. And, I don't want to know.
Armando Iannucci, that's a good moment to say thank you very much.
Thank you.